Or coming out on June the 18th?
Well, yeah, it's not out yet. Yeah, but it should be coming out June 18th. And we have our first single has been out for the past 3 weeks. It was called Disruptor.
Yes.
We have a new single coming out this Friday called Fuel Injected Suicide Machine.
Nice. So that's good. So there's going to be a video for that, or are you doing like a lyric video?
Now that one is just going to have a visual. It's not going to have a big special. But the third one that's coming out will have part two to Disruptor.
Oh, okay, okay. Are we now allowed to know what the third song is?
No, it's too soon.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's fine. We got the album yesterday, actually, and I
Well,
had.
you have the album. You have the album. So, but other people don't have the album yet.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And yeah, so I listened to it yesterday. I listened to it again this morning before I gave you a phone call, and it's yeah. I mean, if you want my 2 cents worth, which will turn up in another review anyway, it's it sounds fresh, and I think Andy Sneap may help with that. But it sounds for you guys. You guys have always sounded one step ahead of everybody anyway. Like when it comes to production values and clarity of the sound that you've got and the dynamics that are in there. And this still sounds one step ahead of what a lot of bands are doing at the moment. And then obviously there's the lyrical content, there's the music in there, and I'm a big fan of the band, so I can see how there's been on this one that there's a growth again from previous albums like Genexus and Industrialist as well that's in there. So my opinion, it's a great album. There's 5 standout tracks for me straight away, which were
one of those 5 standout tracks.
Oh, the ones that stood out to me straight away were Recode, Aggression Continuum, Purity, Collapse, Manufactured Hope. Actually, now I think about it, most of the albums stood out to me. Sorry, Dino.
I think you missed it about 5 or 6. Yeah, I mean, I think the record as a whole is amazing. Even though we wrote the record back in 2017, we recorded a version of it back in 2017. But because of the legal lawsuits and stuff that we were involved in, prevented us from putting the record out. So it's been sitting on the shelf for 3 years. So fast forward to 2020, when we were able to regain the rights back to the trademark name and call the record Fear Factory, I realized that it's been sitting there for 3 years, and I wanted to make some improvements on it. And one of the improvements was bringing in live drums, because the previous recording had program drums.
Yeah.
So I wanted to put Mike Heller, our drummer, who's been in the band for 9+ years, I wanted to bring him back on the record, and he added his touches to it. And it gave the record a little bit more life, gave it a little bit more excitement to it. We also wanted to get Andy Sneap back to mix the record, because he mixed Genexus, and so we kind of wanted to have a little bit of that vibe. And we also got our producer, Damien Renault, who's been co-producing stuff and engineering stuff with the band since 2011. We wanted to get Reese Fulbert somewhere on the record. We got him on a couple of tracks. But I think one of the things that really stood out was a lot of the keyboards, because we had like 4 different keyboardists on this record.
Yeah.
We had Igor Kreshkov from the band Yes. He did like the intro and all the orchestral pieces to Recode. So he did that. And also a lot of stuff on the record as well. He did Collapse and a few other songs as well. We had a guy named Giuseppe Abbasi, based out of Italy. He came in and added his elements to songs like Monolith and a few other songs. I can't remember all the songs he worked on. And we had a guy from Las Vegas, a guy named Max Caron, who added his keyboard elements to a lot of the tracks, as well as myself doing simple things, right?
Yeah.
And a guy dream team, basically, and putting it all together and making this killer album.
It's interesting that you've mentioned there, because it was one of the questions I was going to ask later on about having the different people putting their flavour into the album. Because I kind of got the impression that previous albums, as you mentioned, some of them had a drum program on it, and essentially it was just you and Burton doing all the music. So do you think that might be why that this album, especially now, 3 years down the line, does sound so vibrant?
Yes. I'm not going to say because of, yes. Well, I am going to say because of everybody combined and putting together this dream team for this record gave it something different, something special. And I really liked it working on different songs with different people. You're always going to have the core elements. You're going to have Bert's vocals, you got my guitars, and you got the drums. That's like the core element, right?
Yeah.
But it's like the vision that you share with somebody else on adding keyboards, different type of samples, and the production and the mixing. All that goes hand in hand, all the way down to the mastering. All that plays a part in how this record sounds.
You touched on a word there, and it was one of the first words I wrote when I listened to the album for the very first time. When you just spitballing stuff, and I think it was especially on the song "Collapse." It really stood out to me. Is that you guys make visual music? Is that so where you and what I mean by that is that when I'm listening to the song, I can visualize the video, I can visualize the live performance, I can visualize the content that you're saying. Is that something that you actively try and do when writing your records?
For sure, 100%. Now, obviously, we're influenced by many different things, whether it's movies or books or sounds or just something that comes to your head. I always try to put a picture of what it looks like and what it's going to sound like. Like, let's say a song like Collapse. Bert goes, I want to call the song Collapse. And I'm like, okay. When I think of collapse, I think of like a big building, or I think of something big that's just going to fall.
Yeah.
And what does that sound like? Now it's like, but it's this big, fat, heavy riff with the 8-string guitar, tuned down to G, and just want to make it massive. And especially in the midsection where Bert's saying, collapse, when he's singing that really low title of the song, Collapse. Just what does that sound like? It's just a big, fat, open riff that sounds like it's just destroying something. And that's exactly how I visualized it when I wrote the music for it.
I mean, you're talking about the themes and that you've done. I mean, you've always very much, since the very beginning, really, always spoke about the continuing battle between man and machine. Over the course of the 30 years that you've been doing that, have you seen your own visions of the battle between man and machine take hold in the world?
Oh, 100% for sure, yeah, of course. Especially going back to, well, demanufacture was more of a breakdown of society, right? Because we saw Los Angeles fall apart. From 1992 to 1995, we saw riots with the National Guard on all the streets, curfews, we saw people shoot each other, fires, people burning down the city. Then we had major forest fires here in California, and then we had floods, mudslides, and then we had an earthquake. All those things happened from 1992 to 1990, just before we went into record demanufacture. And that's how I saw this city falling apart, right? And that's when we wrote the story. But going into Obsolete was when we really decided to really write the story of how man day-to-day lives. Everything from books, to print media, to DJs on radio stations. It's all programmed. What else? I mean, people's jobs, manufacturing jobs that are using machines, to make manufactured parts, or whatever it is, in manufacturing. We just seen things like that. We've seen jobs disappear, become obsolete, and that people have to adapt. For instance, like this COVID-19, now people are not going to have to go to the office. A lot of people, a lot of companies are like, well, why do we need to have people in the office? Why do I need to rent this building? I could save money, and I could have these people work from home. And I think that's the next change. Is that?
Yeah, I agree. Actually, normally I've got a day job, and part of my day job is making phone calls, but the phone calls is VoIP, and we had a power outage maybe 2 years ago, and of course the phone stopped working, which meant everything stopped working. And then, as you just mentioned, we're now in a spot where a lot of the guys have to work from home, and it just creates isolation, creates other issues that are arising from that. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So why even, like, I can see what these companies are thinking, like, why do I need to rent this office space? Why do I need to rent this building? Why do I need to be at risk that one of my employees might get hurt at work and sue the company? Fuck it. We'll just have the guy work from home. He can make his phone calls from home. If he slips in his own house, oh well.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know what I mean? So there's going to be changes, obviously, right, in the coming months. And yeah, we see that, just in, obvious surveillance that's been going on for years. We've been talking about that. Securitron 2000 is one of our songs on Obsolete, which is about surveillance.
Yeah.
It's not just about cameras watching down the street. We were talking about everything, from cell phones to computers to you name it. And it's obviously come more and more and more apparent over the years. So we've been talking about that stuff forever.
On this new album, there's one thing that appears in this new album that doesn't appear on many Fear Factory albums, and I might be a bit cheeky by saying this, but there's almost a guitar solo on Monolith. That's a new thing for the band.
Is or there isn't?
There is.
Yes, there's a guitar solo on Monolith. Yeah.
Yeah. What was how did? Because that is different. If you're a Fear Factory fan, that's a thing that will stand out. So what was the? How did that come about?
Well, that was our motto. That's been our motto since day one. There was things that we didn't want to do that were typical from the time that we started. That was typical in music. Everybody had guitar solos everywhere. Everybody had like a lot of elements that we decided to leave out because we were trying to create something different. So there's not a lot of rolls or fills on the drums on a lot of Fear Factory records. It's just snare and kick drum, right?
Yeah.
That was one thing. We just eliminated the drum roll. And a lot of people thought that Raymond couldn't play those drum rolls. No, he could play them. We just decided to leave it out because industrial bands didn't do that. Same thing with the guitar solos. Our first record, Soul Within Machine, we had about 4 guitar solos on the record, but we decided to pull them because we were like, okay, we want to create something different, and we don't want to be the typical band that does guitar solos.
Well, early 90s LA band, yeah.
We carried that. Yeah, we carried that all the way to 2010's Mechanized when I first put a guitar solo in a Fear Factory record. So Fear Campaign had a guitar solo.
That's right, yeah.
And then we didn't do it again, and then I decided to bring it back on Monolith 2020. So
It's kind of cool. Again, it's kind of cool though because it keeps you on your toes. Like again, when you listen to the album for the first time and there's all these other elements coming in, and then all of a sudden you go, "What the fuck?" Right? So it was good.
Yeah. People have complained over the years. People have complained and said like, "Oh, he's not a good player because he can't play guitar solos, stuff like that." People don't know that was a conscious decision. But if people were fans of mine, they would know that I've done guitar solos all over Divine Heresy, other projects, and Assassino, other projects. I do them in other projects. I just don't do it in Fear Factory because that's not the style. But maybe something might appear here and there. I don't know. I always feel like maybe if I do a bunch of solos, people are like, I don't like this in Fear Factory. Yeah. So I just stick to what Fear Factory is, and I don't try to venture too far into it.
I can't speak for other people, but Fear Factory for me, again, we go back to the visual side as well as the musical side. I've always viewed you guys as, well, literally a well-oiled killing machine, a HK hunter killer, if you will, and that's why there's no solos, because there's no place for it. It's just fucking bang. I'm gonna batter your senses with this song. That's how I view it. I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, I think you're very right. I didn't write spots for solos in the rhythm section. A lot of those parts were cut out. You know what I mean? In the first record, Soul of the Machine. We had spots for those Soul of the Machine, and I did solos there, but then we took all that stuff out. And we said, okay, this is not what we're going to convey. We want to be more associated with the industrial band than, let's say, a 90s band, 90s metal band.
Yeah.
So,
especially coming out of LA at that time when it was all hair metal.
Yeah, exactly. LA was the hotbed for solos, and a lot of people couldn't write riffs. But when it came to Soul of the Machine, when I purposely did not even think of anywhere a solo to put in a solo, so I specifically wrote an album for no solos. So there's absolutely no room on that record for a solo. No room. And so once we defined our sound on that record, I just stuck with it.
I know you're going to get fucking bombarded hard with this. So do forgive me for jumping in as well. The whole Burton situation. Now we know it's his last album he's singing on. Mm-hmm. We're guessing, is that relationship broken?
Oh, yeah. Obviously now it is, yeah. I mean, it kind of boggles my mind of the way he decided to announce his departure. I mean, I don't understand why he would try and sabotage the album. All the improvements I made benefited everyone involved, especially him. So I don't know why he purposely tried to... Can you hold on 1 second? I'm sorry. Okay, sorry.
That's right.
Just a delivery at my door. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Where was I?
About how...
he purposely went out of his way to try and damage my reputation and, musical career by first promoting, lies on his public social media saying that the Fear Factory GoFundMe campaign was a scam.
I remember that.
That definitely hurt, for sure. It hurt. He's obviously, I don't know where it's coming from. His social media attacks on me were very ill-intended. It's a character assassination on me. Very unprofessional. His comments spilled into all the metal sites. People were sharing misinformation. It was getting out of hand. It was getting out of hand without the truth being told. It's not easily handling all that negative attention. And I understand that fans are pissed and they wanted answers. because of all the negative things that he said about me in his departure speech. You know, he's the one who started this drama, unnecessary public drama. I wasn't, you know, it just really sucks. You know, I'm answering fans and I'm answering the media's questions as best as I can, trying to, you know, do damage control and be positive about this new record because it's a killer.
Yeah.
You know, I don't hide and run away from the issue. I took it head on. It's the only way that I can be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, this wasn't the first time either.
I just don't get why he would try to sabotage the album. You know?
I get the impression this wasn't the first time either, because I remember when you left the band, and I use the term left loosely, when you left the band in early 2000s, there was similar type of online, or not online, but certainly media information about that as well. So has it always been this volatile?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Has it always been this way?
Yeah, because I remember when you left the band in 2002, I think it was, and there was a bit in the press at that time as well.
Yeah, he definitely, not only him, but all three of them definitely tried to ruin my reputation. But obviously, I think that, you know, people saw, you know, especially, Bert even wrote songs about me, you know what I mean?
Back the hand that feeds.
You know,
I remember.
He never admitted that to me, you know, and when I asked, like, back in 2009, when we got back together, I asked him a lot of those questions. You know, I said, hey, you know, those lyrics, everybody said they were about me. Is that true? And he said, no, they're not true. So I go, what about this particular line that you said? He goes, that wasn't about you. I'm like, okay. It sounded like it was a bullshit line, but whatever. I asked him also, why was I out of the band? What was your issue? And he didn't blame it. He blamed it on the other two guys. So I never really got a definitive answer of what happened way back in 2002. So I don't really know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to answer that question because I didn't make those decisions. Those decisions made on the three of them. But I blame all three of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know who else to blame. I mean, I guess I could blame myself, but I just want to know what I did.
It's fair enough. You want answers. I get that. Yeah. But
I want answers too. Exactly. But actually, being out of Fear Factory, I think it was a blessing in disguise because without being out of Fear Factory, I wouldn't have been able to create some amazing shit that I did. For instance, I got to do the Roadrunner All-Stars, which is
a great album.
Record that we did. Yeah. Roadrunner All-Stars. I got to do other band Assassino.
Yeah.
Released 2 records with Assassino. I released 2 records with Divine Heresy. So I got to do a lot of things before I came back. I put out more records than they did.
Yeah.
They only put out 2. I put out 5.
Well, who's the hard worker then? You know.
There's a big difference there. You know what I mean? And they were going through their own personal drama as well. Those 3 guys, you know, things took a turn, and they weren't getting along with Burton as well either. They were having issues with Burton, but Burton decided to reconnect with me, and after a while, I decided to go ahead and, you know, to join Fear Factory again and do this thing with him again. You know, I felt it was the right thing to do, even though it wasn't exactly the best relationship. I did feel it was the best thing to do because I wanted to be back with something that I started. Yeah. I feel that Fear Factory was the majority of my vision. I thought it was my baby. Don't get me wrong. I'm not discrediting the other guys and what they contributed, not at all. But in my head, I was the driving force. I was the motivator. I was the one who met with all the record companies to try to get the band signed. I was the one who met with the producers. I was the first one in the studio and the last one to leave. I was just that guy. That was me. There's was always a guy like that in the band, right?
Yeah.
And I was that guy. So I felt really close to what I was doing. I was really proud. I was proud of what I created from day one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I believe in what I do. I believe in my idea. And I dive in head first. And I go for it.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, further to your point on that as well about what it is that you bring. When you mentioned the Roadrunner album there, even the songs that you were part of on that, you knew it was you on that song, like, because you have your own distinctive sound. So it makes sense exactly what you said there, that you feel that was you. That's what you were. That you were one of the, if not the main contributor, certainly one of the main ones.
Well, I mean, when it comes to the music of Fear Factory, you know that it's going to be me. You know that sound is going to be there. You know that. And the same thing with Burton, and because he has a very distinctive voice as well. You know what I mean? And that's great, right? But we've changed over the years. You know what I mean?
Get older.
Some stuff becomes more, we have to progress, right? When you're writing these records, especially for a Fear Factory record, you want to bring these other elements in there as well to go along with your core elements that you have, your traditional Fear Factory elements, and that's riffing guitars with syncopated double bass and the heavy and the clean vocals, right? We have our own distinctive sound. But when I was out of the band, they did a record that did not even sound like a Fear Factory record.
Transgression.
That was a record called Transgression.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was way out of left field. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, it had the U2 song on it.
I know, it wasn't a good version. But whatever. But we only have I only have time for one more last question. We got to move on to the next call.
Okay, yeah, my apologies. Okay, well, the last one I'll get is the future then. So, I mean, what is next for Fear Factory?
Okay, the future. I'm glad you asked about that, because now it's about announcing a new singer. That's going to be coming in soon. Not before the record, but after the record. Anyways, so announcing a new singer, maybe doing a new song, releasing it before we go on tour next year, just so people can hear this new guy, this new girl, whoever it's going to be.
I was going to say, you did say girl on Twitter, yeah.
Yeah, so it's moving on, and I'm excited for the future. Don't worry, the traditional elements of Fear Factory are going to be there, because a lot of people are still nervous, they're still questioning, they're saying that it's not going to be Fear Factory, and that's not true. It's going to be Fear Factory. Don't worry, I'm there. It's going to be good. No one died. We can get past this, and we can fucking make it fucking killer. My track record speaks for itself.
Correct.
Don't worry. If these fans want a hug, I'll give them a hug. If they're grieving, I'm sorry, they can cry on my shoulder, but we're going to move on, and we're going to fucking come out with sick shit.
Nice work. Dino, I know you're a busy man. Thank you very much for giving me all your time today.
Thank you very much.